Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Art Department podcast. With me in the studio here, Emmanuel Shiu, and myself, Urschel. And today we're going to talk about fan art. What is it? What do you have to look out for? The legal side, the ethical side, the fun side. And we're going to start things off right away. And I think Emmanuel did a lot of research, and so he's going to share that with us now.
Yeah, so just to start off, we're not lawyers, we're not giving legal advice, and none of this is definitive, anything more than just my research. So, if you're going to need more, and we can link to some of the YouTube videos of the lawyers' videos that I've been listening to
Cool.
in the description. But basically, wanted to talk about fan art, and because fan art is a big it is a big part of our industry, and I see a lot of it, and I wanted to talk about it because I feel like we'll get into the ethics part later, but legally, what is fan art? And there's a legal definition, which is fan art is artwork created by fans of a work of fiction and derived from a series, characters, or other aspect of that work. And basically, it's just fans creating artwork based off of properties that have already been established.
Right.
And, were you going to say something?
No, I was just wondering. So this is a legal definition, right? This is
The definition is a legal definition.
Okay. But this one pretty much includes everything. Like you would say,
Yes.
if you put Mickey Mouse in your painting, or if you actually make a derivative work of, I don't know, Mickey Mouse as a spaceman or whatever, this is all kind of covered
It's all
in fan art.
yes, definitely.
Okay.
And a very simple question a lot of people would say, well, is it legal to do fan art? Is it legal?
Right.
And the short answer is it's not.
Okay.
Even if it's not for personal gain, it's not. Now, if you do it in the privacy of your own home, or you do it, somewhere where the art doesn't get out, then it's fine, obviously. But anytime art is put in a public forum, if you really look at the legalese, it will be not legal. But there are a lot of buts when it comes to fan art.
Okay. I see a lot of it. So
the thing is, you might ask, well, why does any company care? Because we're just promoting their stuff.
Right.
We're doing it because we love the property.
Yeah.
And they care because if you let's say you put Mickey Mouse with a machine gun mowing down some things, they may not want their brand to be shown that way.
Right.
So that may, because, you're not going to just, reproduce Mickey Mouse and that's it. A lot of times you'll put things, like they're doing certain things or, whatever you want. And so that's one reason why they would not want you to put that out there. Another reason would be financial. Like if you made a fan art and you started selling T-shirts and it started selling like hotcakes, then, they're going to want to cut.
That's
that's simple.
For me, that is very, very easy to understand. That if you just take a image of Mickey Mouse, even if you didn't alter anything, and you just put that on T-shirts and sell it, or posters or whatever. Well, you make a mix-up of various properties. I don't know, you put the Simpsons next to Mickey Mouse and you sell it, you put that together and then you profit from it. Like that is not legal is very clear. But I mean, I see so much stuff out there of people using other people's brands and then actually some of them profiting off it, and maybe indirectly or
directly.
I know
but people who are profiting directly from it.
Exactly, because people know these characters, and then they go like, oh, this is cool. So I can build something off that. Like I can.
Or they may just be. It's maybe very innocent. Like I love this character.
Yeah.
I'm gonna draw it in my spin, and hey, people like it, so I'm gonna make some T-shirts out of it. But I'm gonna make a book out of it.
The fact that so much of it is out there and so much of it seems to be out there without any without any takedown notice, without any further ramifications, is always quite surprising.
Well,
So
so
like,
what I have found is that there are takedown notices, and people have gotten sued. Usually, the process is you'll get contacted, and
right.
there will be a cease and desist, and usually that's as far as it goes.
Yeah,
So
because yeah,
usually,
yeah.
but there are times when you know you got to look for the worst case scenario, which is you could get sued,
Like right
and
away.
it's yeah, and it depends on what you've done. It depends on the company you're dealing with, and also what you have to realize is that um, getting sued, the problem is not so much losing, is the lawyer fees, is all those kind of things that are really hefty. So I'm just saying that that is a possibility from my research, because it is, if they really get down to it, it's not legal. It's their property. It's pretty much simple. Now, you can circumvent that by saying, I'll license it, right? If you can contact that person or that corporation or whatever of that property and say, I want to use your character, and what's it going to cost? And some people with smaller property might say, oh, it's fine. Why don't you do this, and that, and that will be good. You can license that property, but most of our industry, they're not going to go through that,
Yeah. I
to
mean, Mickey Mouse
license
is
this.
going to
But
be expensive. So
right, but I mean, it is a possibility, right? So it's a way. You might say, well, I really want to do that fan art and sell it. What do I do? You can do that. Now, another thing that you can do, I found out that there are actually sites out there that are like a site called Redbubble,
oh yeah,
Redbubble,
yeah,
but they are partnered with certain brands that you can actually go through there and say, is this brand something that I can they have a lot of stuff on there that you
right,
could say, well, I want to make some fan art for that and then sell it through you.
yeah.
You can do that.
Ah.
So there are certain things, but I think for our industry, most people are just doing fan art because they really want to, and then after the fact they go, well, maybe I can sell it, or maybe someone contacts me and then I can sell it. So, more of the legal stuff is basically, if someone dies, the artist dies, their work is still copyrighted for at least 50 years internationally through the Berne Convention in Geneva. But that America kind of has its own thing, which is about 70 years. So
After the death.
then after 70 years, the copyright pretty much expires, unless they make an extension. So you
Okay.
have to check and do your research. But, if that property has been, 100 years, let's say, you're
Right.
in the clear, I guess, but, that's just the way that.
Yeah, no. I encountered that if you, for example, I mean, a lot of classical music falls under that, I think, rule, where it's 150 years old, and yeah, some copyrights for some stuff have actually expired. So you can just, I don't know, record it yourself and put it in your YouTube videos without it being flagged, or you can buy royalty-free music based on exactly those notes, and you can still get away with it. But I guess in our industry, like, that's just not gonna be the case, because everything is still very, very new, right? I mean,
yeah, and just make sure you do your research.
yeah,
I think. Ultimately, if you're going to do the work, I think it behooves you, that person doing the work, to find out, and a big thing is avoiding substantial similarity, right? So what they're saying is basically it has to look 90% different.
90% different.
For you to go to court and convince a judge, this is something you can use that you've made into your own. It has to be 90% different.
Okay. Well, that's almost completely right. So, but I mean,
exactly. So you might as well go the 10, right?
Yeah, might as well just make something completely new, right? Why go through the effort? But I mean, for me, it's very like, should now everybody just kind of stay away from making fan art? Is that what we should recommend? I mean, from
So
a legal
okay,
point of view.
so legally, obviously, it doesn't look good,
Right.
right? I
Whatever
mean,
you do.
it's something, you know. After I say this, it's probably people are moaning and groaning and going, ah, man, I want to do fan art, and I get you, but I also feel like, you know, you need to know legally what you're responsible for, what it is that you're doing. So that's all the sort of brief legal things. I mean, there are a lot more in-depth
Yeah.
videos from lawyers, but I have listened to a lot of them. And I've researched, and I don't think I've ever come into one piece of information that says it's okay.
Yeah, so
It is
if you
not.
want to be 100% safe, don't do it, right? I mean, for me, what's
Right.
interesting is, I mean, I understand people doing it for their personal interest and just like, I mean, stop talking about Mickey Mouse, but like let's say a new game comes out, right? Like let's say Last of Us comes out, and like everybody is making like fan art of that game, or everybody's making fan art of, I don't know, whatever popular video game or movie just came out, and you see everything like flooding, like, oh, I made this fan art of Batman just as the Batman trailer comes out. I mean, a lot of people call it whatever they want to, but in the end, I guess it's fan art, right? But for me, the interesting cases are like, I guess a lot of people do it and try to sell it for as long as possible, and they are actually aware that it's not that whatever they're gonna call a legal gray zone. But I mean, it doesn't feel very gray. It feels very black and white to me.
Well,
But
okay,
like,
let's take the first part of what you
yeah,
said, because actually that's a really good point. So, and we'll get into some of the ethics because, okay, you talked about Last of Us, right? You know, a lot of stuff out there, and you know, you're doing your fan art of Last of Us. But I say, why don't you, you know, you don't. Nobody owns the idea of apocalyptic city and that kind of a thought. That's not fan art. That's not copyrighted.
right.
So do your version, but it doesn't have to be for Last of Us. It could just have that theme, you know, if you really want to do that. Uh, I just think that a lot of people, they're so excited and they want to use those buzzwords like,
Of course,
oh,
of
you know,
course. I
this
mean,
is.
if you just do any generic apocalyptic city, and then even if you paint it in a similar style to the guys from Naughty Dog, I mean, it will not gain the same attention. What I have seen a lot happen on Facebook
Yeah,
is that, sorry, not on Facebook, on
tiny.
ArtStation, is that they're gonna actually like they're actually going to put a character in it that looks exactly like the main character, let's say, of The Last of Us, the girl with the guitar or whatever. And then they would actually, like, you know how people on the main page, they kind of put a logo on it, right, of that property. So kind of as a way to say like, okay, this is the official art, right, even though it's, who can check, right? But then actually before the game comes out, or just at the same time when ArtStation gets flooded with an art dump, they're actually putting a piece of fan art up there with like the big logo, and then maybe if they are nice, they're going to put really small under it fan art. I've seen that happen so many times, and of course they're getting a lot of attention because some people don't read the fine print and they think that this is the official art. So there's
Yeah,
that
and
big part about
I
tricking
actually
people.
think, yeah, so that's, I mean, that's just kind of a little bit dishonest in my
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
opinion, and ethically, I think, you know, first of all, you know, if your work is strong, it should stand on its own,
Right, of
right?
course, of course.
You know, you should be able to do, you know, my thoughts on fan art is doing it. I mean, I've done fan art because, you know, I've done some for some properties that I thought, wow, this is, I've always had this thought since I was a kid, you know, and I just want to be able to illustrate
Right.
that. And I've done it a couple of pieces through the years, but you know, the thing is, I would never sell it
Right.
ever. I've been asked many times to make prints and all this kind of stuff, put it in a
Yeah.
book, and I have flatly refused because it's not my property to
Right.
sell. I can't sell it, but I enjoyed doing it, and that was it. And the people who wanted to, you know, get it printed, I would just say I can't do it. And I think you have to take a stand about what you believe, because you have to really think about, well, if it was your property that you came up with, let's say Star Wars or whatever, that was your property, your blood, sweat, and tears, you've come up with a property, and now somebody just says, thank you. I mean, I love your property, so I'm going to make some art, and then I'm going to, if I can, I'll sell it and I'll make
Mm.
money. And you, the creator, have no say. And I think that just think about that for a second, and not only be respectful of the person, whose IP it is, because you don't know whether they want you to put that character with a gun in their
Mm.
hand. Maybe that's completely against what
Yeah.
they think about, violence wise. You don't know. So that's definitely that's sort of my opinion on fan
Right.
art. As a general, what do you have any thoughts on your opinion? What's your
Maybe we'll
opinion?
get into that later. I mean, I think basically the short version is that I mean, because we're working as concept designers, our job is to have new ideas, even if we work on established properties. But for me, the idea of fan art maybe is still very limited in that sense. But I don't do fan art. I don't think as a designer it's good to
I
do
don't think I've ever
fan art.
seen you do.
No,
I don't think I've even seen you do
no, no,
one
no.
piece.
Because I said, like, I'm a designer. I need to come up with new things. Why do I need to use existing properties to make myself like? I feel like most people just do it for the clicks and the likes and the popularity. So I said, like, I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to go to the degree of doing that, of using something that somebody else made to
Yeah.
sell my
Yeah.
own services. Because I mean, honestly, in the end, even if you do fan art just because you like it so much, I mean, you're using the popularity that is attached to this name as a way to make yourself more popular, and maybe like I've seen so many people do fan art of projects that I have been rumored to be in production or close to be in production. And I mean, say what you will, and it's everybody's free to do that apparently. But I mean, that's not something I want to do, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's absolutely
Mm.
fair. And honestly, I think I that's why you'll see me come out with my own sort of
Mm.
characters, my own
Mm.
IP, my own thinking, my own art. But I did do a piece that was like in my head for like since I was a
Yeah,
kid.
that's
So
cool.
I did
Yeah.
that. And I was like, okay, I've done that, and that's it, But and this is where it goes to like, okay, for people who are saying, okay, well, what if I really want to learn through fan art? Is that okay? Or I mean, do you think is an effective way to learn to do fan art?
I mean, what do you really learn from it? I mean, like what do you stand to gain? I mean, I know a lot of people like tell stories of how they grew up and how they got their start basically in doing art by copying their favorite comic books, right? I hear that time and again,
Yeah, that's
and
how they
that
started. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool, right? But I mean, is that would I categorize that strictly as fan art? I mean, it's like partly learning, it's partly studying, and just as a kid you don't think in the terms of like, oh, I'm gonna upload that and I'm gonna gain from it and I'm gonna use it to gain popularity or whatever, right? Because in the comic industry, I mean, there is not so much like new things happening, right? It's always like a continuation of the big popular franchises from DC and Marvel. And chances are that if you can draw Spider-Man really, really well, and you can kind of put your own twist on it over the years, then you might end up getting a job there, right? But I mean, for me, the issue with fan art is more about of people who want to brand themselves as designers, but they do predominantly fan art and try to gain popularity or get into projects that are rumored to be in production. I don't find that to be I don't know, a good way to go about things. And I mean, honestly, as a learning tool, I don't see how that can be helpful. Wouldn't it be better for you as a designer to come up with new things and
Yeah.
figure out
Oh,
something new.
I think a lot of
I
people
don't know.
think that if I put my own spin, on a design problem, like let's say, um, like okay, oh the
Yeah,
Batmobile, what's my
yeah, yeah,
version
yeah.
of the Batmobile? And I have a story. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Oh, it's
I
okay.
mean,
Yeah.
I agree with you when it comes to design. If you add a certain level of a designer, you should have your own ideas and your own designs.
Mm,
That's for sure. But I think for a lot of people that uh, are beginning,
mm,
I have given assignments where I'm saying, okay, um, what would a next okay, you don't like the
mm,
Batmobile, right? You're yelling and screaming, you don't like it. Okay, well, why don't you like it? How will you solve this problem?
mm,
Because
mm,
honestly, in our field, a lot of times when we're jumping onto a
mm.
movie, I mean, who knows? You might get called for the next
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Batman, and that's maybe your next assignment. And in that case, it's not fan art anymore. That in that case, you're really using that problem and challenging
Mm,
yourself as a designer. How do I make this vehicle for this
mm, mm, mm.
villain or this whatever? How do I do that? And honestly, if you're a seasoned designer, you can do that for
Yeah,
anything.
exactly.
You don't
That's a very
you
good
don't need.
point. But I think we need to separate here the ability to be able to adapt to an existing established franchise or design language, and doing, I think, pure fan art. I think somehow isn't it a bit the opposite way that, I mean, when production designers or directors look for a new style for their for, like, let's say the Matt Reeves takes on a new, like how he took on directing the new Batman, and I'm pretty sure that the people who were looking for designers to tackle a new kind of Batmobile, they were not looking at the people who did Batmobile fan art, but they were rather looking at people who had a particular style of design, do a particular kind of vehicle design or whatever, to then take that and bring it to the Batman franchise. Isn't it? Doesn't Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's what I
No,
think
no,
of it. Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that and also this is just to be aware that if your portfolio is full of fan art, you're going to have a hard time getting
Mm,
hired because I've talked to a lot of people in like animation, I've talked to people in games, and I've talked to people in film, and they're all saying, I don't want to see fan art in your
mm, mm,
portfolio.
mm.
Just so people know that they don't want to see that. Now, that's not coming from me. That's not, this is, I'm just telling you verbatim because they're thinking, I want to see how you think, just like what you're
Yeah.
saying, right? I want to see how you think and solve problems and your unique voice. Now, if you're doing fan art, it could be the best fan art in the
Mm.
world, but it's still fan art. It's still a property that's already been thought out for you. You may take your own spin, but just be aware that these people are telling me. And honestly, if you were hiring, would you want to hire somebody who just gave you a bunch of fan art? Because would you even know that they could solve your problems?
Yeah, exactly, right. I mean, if it was me in charge, I would actually avoid the fan art. But that's just my complete um, my complete strict way of looking at it. But I'm sure there's plenty of other people who maybe would appreciate that, or maybe that's what they're looking for. Maybe they actually take it as a test. I mean, if part of, if you have a few little pieces of fan art here and there just because you love that particular franchise so much, you just can't help but do something, like you want to do like a different location for like an Indiana Jones movie because you had this great idea that, oh, what if Indy goes to this part of the world because I've been visiting it on my travels and I thought it's the perfect location for Indiana Jones 5. But if the rest of your portfolio is kind of really rock solid, like design and everything, then yeah, then I think there's not really much of a problem, right? But if it's like,
But I mean, like good example that you just put. But I would say, okay, but why do the fan art of Indy then? Then just put that location that you're
yeah, yeah, yeah,
thinking, that design of that building, and then design a female adventurer. Change it up, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
it's
I
your
know, I
own
know, I
thing.
know.
It's
But you
yours
know that
now.
I think there's something different about it when you have that guy with the fedora and the whip, then
Yeah,
it
but that
changes
that doesn't make.
everything. It changes everything, no?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, yeah, this is where I probably would disagree because I feel like yes, of course you can recognize it as
Yeah.
indie, but I don't. But that doesn't make it a better piece of
Oh
art
no,
that I
no,
can recognize
definitely
as
not.
indie. Yeah.
I don't mean in changing as in like it makes it better or anything. It just changes it changes the perception of the viewer. I think completely
You
because
mean they think it's better,
not
or
necessarily better, but I mean, you know that a lot of art that is being produced for these projects is not necessarily better than like personal art that you produce, just because you have intense time constraints and you don't get to explore certain aspects of your designs just because you have to move on. But I think it changes completely the perception of the viewer because you suddenly have the entire backstory of Indiana Jones in the back of your head, and you imagine how he walks, how he speaks, like all the sidekicks he has, and you fill that in your subconscious. Whereas if you just have a random person standing there, you just don't know anything about that lady adventurer, and like let's not say she's Lara Croft or whatever, but somebody obviously different. Then you don't have that story to fill in what could
I guess
happen
then
next. Like you imagine he takes out
so
his whip and like jumps over a crevice or whatever. I have no idea.
sure, but I mean
So
for the more even that might be the better design challenge then is to put all that in a frame that you can tell me all the whole
yeah,
story
exactly.
without me even knowing who the
But
character is. Now
it's
that,
more difficult, of course.
oh
It's
yeah,
more rewarding
yeah,
as
it
well,
is.
but it's not putting a well-established character in that piece is easy, right?
Right, and it is sort of, this is where, one is fan art, one is you just thinking, okay, the pose, how am I going to pose
Mm-mm.
this
Yeah.
character? What kind of accessories? Where is this person? What are they doing? How are they doing it? I have to think about all that. So this is your
Yeah.
own, and this is somebody
Right.
else's, and you're banking on somebody else's property that's already been
Yeah.
predefined to make your image better. I think that personally, I wouldn't do that. I think go this way is better,
Right.
because it really exercises you and how you tell your story. And anybody looking at a portfolio like this or a piece of art like this would say they would hopefully they would appreciate what you've done here if done right, um, rather than just putting the usual fedora on. But like I do get that there are some pieces of art you really want to
Yeah. Yeah.
make,
Yeah. No, no, that's fine.
and
So
I have no problem
yeah.
with that. But just I'm just saying that from most people, from what I hear, that are in a position of hiring, are telling me they don't want to see that,
Right.
don't want to see fan art. And I remember even I was asked this in a like an illustration class at my the school I used to go to, um, and they were like, very, but that's the illustration program, and they were very against fan art. Uh, Teachers were, and I think most people in that capacity aren't, because they want to see your voice, and fan art just hard to have a voice in it
Right.
because it's already somebody else's stuff to begin with.
Right. Right. Right.
And that's just sort of the ethics of it. Much less, and I've always had a problem with actually people trying to make money off of other people's property. I mean, that for me is a no-no because I feel like I wouldn't want someone to do that to me. Um,
Right.
but I see a lot of people kind of aiming for that. And I'm not talking about people who weren't aware. I'm talking about some people are actually planning.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's their whole thing. I mean, there's a big fan art like
Oh yeah.
industry.
Yeah. I mean,
Like I didn't even know this, and it's not our industry, but there's a fan art
oh yeah.
conventions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I'm like, oh my
to kind of circle back to the whole legal thing, right? I mean, there are some projects who I find interesting, but I mean, like it's so obviously that they could be shut down at any point, and they have their
Yeah,
entire career built around that. And I mean, I think,
if it gets shut down, you're
I mean,
screwed.
people know. I mean, you can't say that if you make a huge amount of money with it, um, that and you're already a bit older, that you didn't know that this is legally not right. And I guess people are just banking on it, that they are too, that I don't know, Disney is too preoccupied, Nintendo is too preoccupied with other stuff, that, and you're such a small fish that you don't even matter. And I think that's the only thing you can bank on, right? I mean, there are Patreons, which, like, massive amount of Patreons based on fan art. And what's really popular is that you give people the famous characters they know in situations that they would
I know
never be that would never be possible through the uh, uh, official channels, because it goes against, like you said before, like put a machine gun in Mickey Mouse hands, right? That is not aligned with the brand. And not, I mean, I think Disney is a bit more protective of their own stuff than others, although probably Disney is the most copied, most fan arted brand in the world, I would say. I mean, maybe alongside like Marvel or something like that, right? I mean, the entire superhero industry, like the black market for that is probably like even bigger than the official licensing market. I can imagine. So, but I mean, there are people who are just completely like, if they get a cease and desist, like their business is gone. So, and I'm not
Pretty
sure
much.
that is a smart way to go about it. And
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that. I think most of the people who are in concept art aren't banking their
oh
careers
no
off
no
of
no no,
this,
but I
obviously.
mean,
But I do. I mean, I think it's worth mentioning that people realize that, hey, look, A, it's not legal. B, but also B, you're just trying to create a piece of art, concept
yeah.
art. A lot of people are trying to make art that can be in the portfolios. A lot of people are just making art so that they can kind of rank up and level up. And I think that, there are a lot of ways to do that without having to do fan art.
Yeah.
And I would say I would reserve that fan art um, for the people who really feel like, hey, look, I really have this piece that's kind of I've wanted to do that. No problem. Do that and have fun doing it and have fun sharing it. No problem. But that can't be the bulk of your work.
Yeah, exactly
Otherwise,
right.
I think that's the
Yeah,
main
that's
thing
the
we're
main
trying to
thing,
say
right?
here.
If it's like a one-off little thing, that's cool, right? We all went there. I mean, I think for me, it's like the disconnection with fan art comes, I think, from the fact that I don't think I'm fanatic about a particular franchise. Like I'm like, oh my god, I love Star Wars. Like I just have to.
Like anti
Yeah.
like
But I mean,
major thing.
there's some cool, like I remember there was the ILM challenge on ArtStation where there were certain tasks to design ships that would fit into the Star Wars universe without being an obvious like copy of an X-wing or a TIE fighter or whatever. That is something quite interesting. And do you think that's like a valid exercise to do for people?
I think that when it comes to for education, I think it was actually more like they were coming from this is our world. I'm going to treat you like an art director. I'm going to treat you like actually you're working at
Okay.
ILM. And here's the assignment, and you're actually talking to
Right.
ILM. So, I think that was a really successful sort of contest. I think it was what it was, but a competition. But in the end, some people got hired at ILM,
Right.
and I think going through that program, knowing the world puts you guys all in the same level field, right? Like you guys all know Star
Yeah.
Wars. Here's the brief, and you got to make something fit in a world. It's actually a very good and often it happens a lot. Like when we're working now, even now, We have to fit things in certain
Right.
worlds. I mean, we're always being asked, hey, like, you know, on Captain Marvel, you were asked to do a certain world or realm, and it's already been, like there is, it's in the comic books
Right. Right.
or
Right.
whatever, and you have to make an updated
Yeah,
thing
exactly.
that works. And people need to, concept artists also need to know that, hey, that is something you will need to solve at some point if you're going to work on
Yeah,
these
exactly.
films or any game franchise. If you go to God of War, they're going to ask you to do certain
Yeah,
things that have to fit in that franchise too.
definitely.
So I think something like that is useful, but I think useful as an
Yeah,
exercise.
that's true. That's true.
And not like, oh, okay, I made this ship. Now I'm gonna, make T-shirts out of it. I don't think anybody's really doing that. But I also think that I really agree with you at what you said at the beginning, where a lot of people are doing it. It's the easy way to get likes.
Mm-mm-mm.
And it's easy, right? I mean, you make here's a paint over of Darth Vader. Well, everybody likes Darth Vader already, so yeah. I mean, yeah, and they try to build up their their fan base that way. And I think, be honest with yourself, and build it up with what you can
Right, right,
design
right.
well. And people will know, at least they'll like, it may be a lot less likes, but they're, the ones that are getting a lot of likes on Darth Vader, they're not liking you, they're liking Darth
Yeah,
Vader.
that's true.
Just remember that. And you want people to like
Mm.
you.
But I mean, there's also success stories now that I think about it of people who have built a career out of fan art, and they're doing incredibly
Like, like,
well.
is there, do we know any of these?
I mean, I don't know
Is that,
directly, right? This really famous guy is called Boss Logic. You know him? I don't know
oh,
who's behind it, but I mean, he has a massively successful Instagram account, and I think it started off as like what he did was very smart. Actually, he took kind of like when a certain actor was announced to like have scored a certain like superhero role, like I don't know, Ben Affleck cast as Batman, or like most recently The Rock cast as Black Adam, and these kind of things. He would like the second it comes out, the news, he would actually make, yeah, kind of like a mashup. He would take that actor and make him like look really good in a costume of that superhero, and
well,
that would
you're
get
right.
insane amount of traction online, because it would be it's perfect for like news outlets and kind of like to have cool
It's
images.
not really licensed, right?
I think in the beginning, I mean, it was not at all. I think he was just like bashing things together. But I mean, it's an incredibly smart way. I don't know if he intended to have this stuff go viral, but I think it happened several times, and I think now he has like
Because I'm looking at the
two
Instagram now, it's
million.
like everything is
Yeah, but now it's official. I think now he gets officially hired by DC to do this kind of stuff,
okay.
and so that's
I guess that is one way
yeah,
of,
that's a really interesting
like,
way of doing.
hey, look, I mean, if you do fan art to a point like this guy does, and the stuff does look good, and people pick you up, there, I guess that is a way. But I'll tell you that, um, I'll just, reiterate that if you go into whatever interview, whatever uh, PD, they're not going to want to see fan art unless, I guess, it's so unique that that's specifically what they're looking
Right,
for.
right.
Like, I've just
Yeah,
never
that's a
heard of that.
there's something I think we need to differentiate here. I mean, what this guy did is kind of he circumvented everything. His goal was not, I think, to get a job somewhere as a designer, right? He just did it because he thought it was probably funny in the beginning, and then he noticed it took off, right? And so he just kind of does his own thing, right? But what you just said is right. If you are planning to get hired, if you're planning to work for a company, if you want to work as a designer for somebody else, then I think having a portfolio full of fan art, or even using that fan art you did some time ago as a portfolio at a job interview, I think is the wrong way to go about things. That is definitely something I agree with.
But if you like to enjoy doing it on your
Yeah, that's
own,
cool. Totally.
I would say,
Nobody can
hey,
stop you.
have at it,
Yeah.
have fun, but do it for the right
Yeah,
reasons because
exactly.
you really love it.
Exactly.
But don't do it because, hey, I'm gonna build my profile up.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly.
do that.
Don't do it because like, oh, if I know I can get popular, like if I do I don't know, Star Wars fan art or whatever, right? That's
And
the
you
wrong way.
will,
I mean,
right? I mean,
yeah, you will definitely. If it's well done, um, then it's going to be even better, right? But then I'm at the point where I'm thinking, if you already if you're such a good artist already, if you have such technical skill, then isn't that time and energy you spend on fitting something in an existing universe, why don't you make your own universe, right? Of course it's going to be harder, of course it's
but
going to take
it's
longer.
scary, man. I gotta
Of course it
say,
is.
it's hella scary because I'm doing that now, and you always run through things in your mind that you're like, well, what if people don't like my
Yeah,
world?
because it's you, right?
What if
It's you more than anything.
yeah, what if they don't like me?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's much easier to say, hey man, I'm gonna because like I struggle because like I'm like, oh man, I've had this thought of like I love Batman,
Mm-mm-mm.
and I've had this painting in my head for like since I was a kid, and now I'm kind of going the other way, going I can't, I shouldn't do that, so I don't do it. But and I know that if you do it, you're just really piggybacking off of other people's
Right.
like their property, and I feel like maybe I'll do it, but I'll just do it for myself and I'll leave it on my computer and that call it a day. I
Right.
don't need to share
Right.
that. Um, because I feel in the end, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, if you got that time and energy, you've got that skill, put it towards something that's just
Right.
and let the chips fall away the may, because at least you're happy doing it, instead of you know doing somebody's property, and in the end really fitting yourself into somebody else's world. I mean, you might say, I'm going to take my spin and I'm going to make it like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
this,
yeah.
but why don't you just make your own thing?
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
you're absolutely, but it is freaking scary, man. I mean, because like I said, even last time I was like, I put my stuff out there. It's, you don't understand how much people are bearing their souls when they're actually doing stuff that's
Right.
original, because people might just say, oh, that's stupid,
Yeah, that is
and then you're
exactly. Yeah.
screwed. But I mean, if you put out Batman, like, oh, I like Batman, you can hide behind, oh,
Yeah,
Batman,
yeah, yeah.
and then people say stupid, say, hey, yeah, Batman's stupid, then it's not me.
Exactly, right? It's like, oh, I don't like blah, blah, this, but yeah, it's very much true. It's very much true. Um,
I mean, and it's funny because I actually never thought from your point of view, um, because I think I come from it from more of an art point of view, and you came from it from a much more design point of view. And you're right, because when I really sit down to think, you have not done a single piece of fan art. Well, you could,
yeah, of
but you
course. I
haven't.
mean, of course, it's easy to take like a stock model of something and then just put it together, right? Um,
What
and
would we say
bask
to
in
the
the
people who say, "Hey, I really love Superman, and I have this idea, and I want to paint it"?
and like
What,
somebody coming to
what
me
would
and
you
saying that.
No, yeah, no, somebody, no, like, let's just say somebody, as a roundtable discussion, somebody say, hey, I love Superman, and I really want to paint Superman.
Yeah, then do that. I mean, the thing is, right? It's not. I mean, maybe I come off as too negative, but I mean, I'm not saying people shouldn't do it, right? But I mean, it has implications, I think, and think about who you want to be known as. And I mean, in the end of the day, you can just do whatever you want, right? If you just want to paint Superman day in day out, then please do that. But then I think you need to be aware that like, what are you doing it for? Are you trying to work at DC? Do you want to work on the new Superman movie? Do you want to sell T-shirts with the Superman you designed on it? Are you putting like what's the thing behind it, right? If it's just purely if it's just purely for your own satisfaction, then yeah, do that. But like you said, why do you need to upload it? Like why are you seeking validation of your spin on Superman if it's just purely for yourself anyway? Maybe that's a thing that is just
Well, and
it's
that's
a
a
sign
bigger
of the
question because I
times.
mean,
I don't know.
yeah, but it's like you're a photographer, I'm a photographer. Why do we upload our photography? I think there's a sense of,
That's true.
needing to be
Yeah, yeah,
shared,
yeah.
and to share with other people, and to feel like other people are enjoying. Maybe you've touched somebody with your
Yeah.
art. I think, and I honestly think that it's hard, just try to understand that building your brand off of somebody else's stuff is always going to be quite difficult in the end, because it's not yours. But I think that if you're doing the one-off and you really feel like you want to paint, like I mean, I know I painted the Spider-Man when Jim Lee died.
Oh, right. I saw that one. Yeah.
Sorry, Stanley.
Yeah.
Stanley died, and I was like, uh, I was sad that day, and I just said, "Hey, I just want to do that
But that was
as
like
a
an
tribute."
interesting. That was a tribute, right? That was. I mean, I wouldn't call that necessarily fan art. That was just. That was just
It's
like.
still fan art. It's still
Yeah,
not my
strictly
property.
speaking, yeah.
Right?
Strictly speaking, yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean,
But I'm okay with that. I mean, because I feel like, hey, it is what it is. And as long as the bulk of my work is about me and how I do things, and how I design and how I see the world, then I'm okay with it. And I think mainly is for people who are sort of kind of, they think, oh, I'm doing a lot of fan art, and a lot of people are liking it, so great, but I'm not really getting a job. I wonder why. That may be the reason,
right.
because I'm telling you, a lot of people are telling me, art directors and production designers, saying that's probably one of the most turn off things
Right.
that they see, because it basically tells them nothing more than that you can recreate this piece of art,
Right.
or you can render, but it doesn't tell them you know how to think.
Right.
And that's the thing that they tell me, that they don't really enjoy seeing that. They'd rather see something original.
I mean, do you think like, because we're talking a lot about concept design as a job, but do you think in an illustrator's portfolio it's better? It's good to have pieces.
So I'll tell you this straight up from illustration
Right.
teacher at CCA, super anti fan
Oh,
art,
okay.
because what is illustration about? It's about sort of solving your client's problem, but it's also about expressing yourself through that whole thing. And fan art is just not condoned, pretty much.
Really?
With a lot of more old school teachers, it's frowned upon,
Oh, okay.
because it's not an original idea. You're just copying.
Right.
Like, no matter what you're doing, you're really just copying. If you're doing Spider-Man or Superman, you're just doing that. I mean, it's not, you didn't design the costume or the whole idea of the guy, anything. You're just regurgitating it and saying, well, I'll put my spin on it. But in illustration or in any kind of design, they want you to think.
Right.
Well, like, what are you going to do to solve this problem? And how are you going to infuse your own personality into it?
Right.
But when you're doing Superman, somebody's already infused their own personality into it, and that it's already done.
Right.
So it takes you out of it. Okay, you're fitting. It's like that ILM thing. You're okay. I'm putting I'm doing a different spin of a ship, but if Star Wars didn't exist, you wouldn't even have that to go on. So what would you have done otherwise? It would have made it maybe been much better. But I know that from my knowledge, the illustration program frowns upon
Oh,
that,
interesting.
and they asked me that in specifics, like, what do you think about fan art, when I went to speak at their class.
Oh, interesting.
And that the funny thing is, at that time I said, pretty much the same thing, but if you really want to learn from doing fan art, you could, like, I could see how that can excite students, right? If I said to you, if the student was like kind of really into a certain property and I said, hey, try to solve this problem for that property, but make it different, I could see how that could excite them. But in the end, you could give them just, I mean, if they're if they really want it, you could give them any problem and they'll want to solve that.
Right.
So it doesn't really need to start from that.
Right.
And like it's funny because I was just thinking of the guy that I'm mentoring now, who we just finished his portfolio. He's ready to go, and I look at it and I'm like, there's like zero fan art in there.
Nice.
And and it's just one of those things where these are original ideas, and that's what I like about it.
Right.
You could easily just put in like, oh, I did a alternative to this creature.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But, I don't know. I think there's a lot of value in originality.
Originality, yeah, and our job, yeah, definitely. That's the point.
But I mean, I think this. I don't want to burst people's bubbles and think that we are high or against fan art. I also think this is a big thing because this, we've been looking at a lot of portfolios lately, and man, just a lot of things that I'm like, hey, okay, like I've seen this before.
Where do you draw the line? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard, right? Because like you could copy a car, like kind of, and change a couple lines. Now it's not the same car anymore.
Right.
At what point do you kind of go? Some things are more sort of ambiguous, right? I mean, if you do Superman, it's Superman.
Yeah.
You can't really, big S. I mean, you're not really going to get past that. But I mean, some people just look at a car and change 2 lines and say, okay, that's my car now. Oh, that's a fine line, and because some people do that, they'll say, well, I'll bolt on some things, and then that's I mean, just remember, if you're really trying to design, like let's say you're designing a vehicle, the shape language, right? I mean, that's what you're all about. That's what you teach. It's about the shape language. If that shape language is right, then it's gonna look right.
Yeah.
But it's not like taking something that exists now and then bolt on a lot of parts and then that's okay. That's my ship.
Yeah.
Like it can't really work like that. But a lot of people do that because that's what they call sort of, a lot of people refer to that as kit bashing.
Yeah. I mean, it's playing with what people know, right? And I mean, then you get people like, oh my gosh, I have that car, or I love that car, and there's a lot of history attached to it. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I wish I could really do that to my car, and they want to see it like bigger than life, like cooler than theirs could ever be.
And there are people who do that, and they do it successfully.
Oh yeah, very successful. I mean, the amount of people who love cars, it's like insane. It's a huge audience, right? But of course, it's a different thing, right? It's a different thing. It becomes
that's to me that's not really sort of fan art unless you take something like really iconic.
Yeah, but I mean, again, it's like where do you draw the line again? Like where do you is a BMW less of a intellectual property than Superman? It's not really, right?
Absolutely not. So that's the thing. But I think ultimately, if you do it with with this, at least with this understanding now, what the legality of the the situation is, and also the ethical situation, and what you think of it, and I sure, in some paintings, if you want to put in a BMW because you want to,
that's fine, I think.
and that's your prerogative, but just know that in the end, if you're a concept artist, maybe your concept art design for a car might get you your next job because of your original ideas. But it's easier just to go, I'm going to pick that McLaren and put it in here because it looks futuristic. I like it.
Yeah.
Because I like that car.
Yeah, definitely.
But have you ever thought that maybe if you did your own car, but thinking about doing your own car and designing on paper and then, like modeling it or whatever you want to, however you like to do it. And then you come out with a new car that looks awesome and people are hiring you to do that. Wouldn't that really be what you wanted? And I think a lot of people are so into the instant
Gratification. Yeah.
gratification that they they're so into that they want to, there's this thing with speed now.
Oh,
It's like, oh,
yeah.
I got to do it in half an hour, and then 2 hours later I'll have the render, and then they'll post it on Facebook. I did it in 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
That's another topic.
guys, for everybody, I just say, just remember your originality is it's gold.
Right.
And I think that um, I think if you really believe in that, that a lot more opportunities could come your way, and the kind of opportunities that you want.
Yeah. That sounds
And
perfect.
I truly feel
Yeah.
that.
Totally agree.
I mean, I just want to
Yeah.
encourage
Yeah.
that. It's not so much don't do fan
Yeah.
art,
Yeah.
but I want to encourage more original art and to take your time doing
Yeah.
it.
Perfect. I think.
Because none of this stuff is fast,
No,
right? I
no, no.
mean, Superman didn't get created out of, some fast, but I mean, most of it
Yeah.
takes a lot of thought. A BMW takes
Oh, yeah.
years to design,
Exactly. Exactly.
not 30 minutes. So
Exactly. That's a good point.
anyway,
No, that's a perfect ending, I think, for this episode. Like, we, just to say again, we don't condemn fan art. We don't, let's say, don't do it, but we encourage originality and hope everybody thinks more about the design and tries a bit harder to come up with something really unique. We always like to see unique and original things, and I think clients also want to see that as well. So I think it's the perfect
well,
thing.
I'll just
Yeah.
end by one example. I was just on a Marvel project a couple months ago, and I was pretty much hired because I think because of this image that I had done, personal
Personal
work,
image. Cool.
and
Yeah.
and basically the production designer said, I really like that piece. Can you do something in that vein
Okay. But
for this
in Marvel
world?
world, yeah.
So that to me is not only is the highest
Yeah.
compliment that you can
Yeah.
get, but it also makes you feel good that someone actually wants to see what you have to offer.
Right.
It all came from doing something original.
Right.
And I'll tell you this, at the beginning I had struggled, like maybe I should put out fan art, and so that I can at least get a jump and kind of get
Right.
get somewhere so that people can see my work,
Yeah.
and many years ago. But I struggled with it, and I said, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I struggled though. I'll
No,
be
yeah, no, I
honest
can
with you.
understand, yeah.
I struggled because I thought that's the easy way.
Right. It is.
That's the most, I mean, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
Doing that. So just an example of how originality can help, or in my case,
No,
happened to me.
that's a good point. It's a good story, I think, to end it. Okay.
Well, I want to see you guys. I want to see everybody. I want to see everybody's original work.
And
that excites
and
me.
we also want to hear your comments about this topic and what you think. Maybe it would be interesting to have a little discussion, because I'm sure there's a lot of different opinions on that.
Yeah, I'm
topic.
sure a lot of people are like,
yeah, they're gonna rip us apart. But that's
well,
good.
it's our opinion,
Yeah, exactly,
and
right?
obviously it's
So,
not a definitive.
no.
We want to give you as much information as possible, and also our opinions.
Exactly.
And not everybody's going to feel the same way,
Exactly.
and if you don't, comment so we can have a discussion.
Exactly.
I don't mind.
That would be cool. Anyway, thanks so much, guys, for tuning in this time around. So again, like, if you enjoy this episode, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you want to see next. Let us know what kind of ideas you have, what you're struggling with, and what we can potentially help with. Thanks so much again, and we'll see you in the next one.